Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Resonance Container. I am your host, Callie Johnson, and thank you so much for being here. On today's episode, I want to talk about something that I feel is truly a part of my purpose and something I want to spread awareness in because it's something that is so important for us on an individual level, but also in the collective. And this is heart consciousness. Now, if you have been following me up until this point on other platforms, you've probably heard me talk about this. And I'm sure there's a lot of you out there being like, what the fuck does this woman mean? What is she talking about? Heart consciousness? That just sounds like some woo woo BS. So, before I go into it, I just want to give you all like a brief summation on how I got to this point. So, growing up in the South in Chattanooga, Tennessee, I obviously saw a lot of dogmatic religious garbage. And as a young child and as an adolescent and teenager, I just could not understand like how the notion of God was being presented as this like angry man in the sky that's going to punish you. And on top of that, how people use it as a way to justify hate and bigotry. And the true essence of what Christianity, in my opinion, should be, from unconditional love. I'm not religious, and I'm not saying that you're bad if you resonate with any religious teachings. I think there's something to be gained from all of it. But what I saw at the time was this disconnect from love. And I ended up becoming atheist at a young age because the only presentation I had to associate God with was this sort of presentation. And in my mind at the time, I was like, well, then God must not exist because I don't think that God would do this. And if this is the only way that, you know, God is, then I'm just not going to have anything to do with it. Anyway, fast forward. Um, when I was 26, I abruptly lost my partner. And this was what ended up being my dark night of the soul, as a lot of people call it. It happened out of nowhere, and the grief, the trauma, um, just really like dissolved my world as I knew it. And I shut myself out of my heart essentially. Like, and that's what grief does to us. We kind of jump out of the space, and like over time there's just a hardening that happens. Now, did I become an unloving person? No, but what it did was kind of take me away from this space. And it took several years for me to be able to actually crack back open into that space fully. However, through that experience, that trauma, I was able to rediscover a pathway to connect to source. And over a few years, I dropped the identity of atheist and became curious for a year or two. and then started having a fuller understanding of what spirituality is, what the universe, God, source means to me. And what it took, though, for me to get to this started for me needing to understand the science in conjunction with energetics. And long story short, after going through a lot of healing and becoming an embodied dance teacher, which is where I started really learning about the energy systems, and that opened up my connection even more. I was, I've finally, up the past year, have realized that the biggest thing that humanity is missing right now is our connection to our heart. And I will say the heart chakra is my favorite chakra. So, to start giving you all some context on what heart consciousness is, the heart chakra, and this is me speaking from my background and my teachings, the heart chakra is the fourth chakra if you're talking about classic chakras. I want to keep this very layman if I can. What the heart does is it is essentially the bridge chakra, if I can give a good explanation for it. So you have three lowers that connect us to our material realm, and then you have the ones above the heart that connect us to spirit realm. And when we have a block in the heart, it actually keeps us living in the mind. And the mind is a beautiful thing. This is where our logic lives. This is how, this is what keeps kind of like our bodies running automatically, you know. But when it comes to how we live and operate through our desires and purpose in the world, when we are disconnected from the heart center, the brain takes over and we live in this logic fear mind. So, and what ultimately that is that we're disconnected from the higher self, because the higher self and source is able to find the pathway through the top crown and actually communicate through the heart. And you can go into meditation, or just simply, if you've been practicing for a while, drop into the space and get messages. And they're very, I would say, they're very simple, they're very clear, where the mind tends to make things really convoluted because it's trying to give us logistics and trying to make sure that we don't die, which is great. You know, we have to survive as well. But when it comes to love, oneness, purpose, connection, compassion, that is in the heart, not in the mind. And if you kind of take a look around everything that you're witnessing right now, this world has been designed to keep you in your mind, in the fear brain, constantly rationalizing all the time. It's very purposefully set up this way. And why is that too? Well, if we're constantly in fear, we're more easily manipulated. You will do anything for survival, even if it's follow what somebody else tells you against your own better judgment. And our deepest, better judgment and knowingness comes from our connection to oneness and to our heart center. Yes. So, if we look at this from a scientific point too, like this isn't just spiritual stuff that is all metaphors. No. We now have amazing technology that is proving this. And I'm going to read a little bit from heartmath.org. The Heart Math Institute is fabulous. They do incredible research on the power of the heart. So for my people that need the more sciencey approach to help you understand this. So the heart communicates with the brain and body in 4 ways. Neurological communication, which is your nervous system. Biochemical communication, your hormones. Biophysical communication, pulse wave. And energetic communication through electromagnetic fields. So before, the thought was that the brain, your heart is a brain too. It's a different kind of brain. They thought the mind brain pretty much just controlled everything, especially when it came to like your parasympathetic nervous system. However, through research, and I'm going to try to paraphrase this as I read, the heart was behaving as though it had a mind of its own. Furthermore, the heart appeared to be sending meaningful messages to the brain that the brain not only understood, but obeyed. Even more intriguing was that it looked as though these messages could affect a person's perceptions, behavior, and performance. The Lacey's, the people that did this research, identified a neural pathway and mechanism whereby input from the heart to the brain could inhibit or facilitate the brain's electrical activity. So, what does that mean? When we are dropped into the heart brain on a physiological level, the brain will actually follow the heart's commands. So I used to think that following your heart's desires was just a metaphor. It's not. When we get out of fear logic and drop into heart, it's not really, it doesn't feel like logic when you're in it. I can tell you that. All the craziest things that I've ever done have been because my heart told me to do it, right? But when we are connected to our heart center, the brain will follow. And that is actually the natural order of things, is that the heart acts like this amazing beacon of receiving messages of the higher self, to which it commands the brain to help create or take action. It shouldn't be the other way around. The heart has an electromagnetic field that can be measured several feet away from the human body. So it's actually putting out a signal into reality. And that signal is based on your frequency. And why do you think that the heart beats? Well, the heart is creating resonance. It's just like an instrument, because this whole entire universe is made of vibration. So naturally, our bodies would need an instrument to create vibration and frequency to put out into the rest of this material world. So, how do we create the right frequencies to put out into our 3D world to be mirrored back into me to what we want to experience and what our desires are? Well, first, we have to reconnect to our heart space because this is where actual truth lies. Our higher self and like source energy is communicating through the heart because it comes from a place where we experience oneness and unconditional love. Yes. And then we're fighting against all these thoughts and fears and everything. And unfortunately, what happens is these thoughts send electrical signals that are vibrations that put, a certain frequency out. And if you know anything about manifestation, what, what you put out is what you get back. The universe always mirrors back a signal. And the heart is going to create resonance for that. So your heart is creating this frequency to which you are receiving feedback to what you see and are experiencing in your life. Yep. So now we have the science to prove that. Yes. And unfortunately, the constructs in our reality right now are keeping us out of a state of oneness, out of a state of unconditional love. So, is it any wonder that we are experiencing such a split and divide right now? We're seeing people being so open and hate, and it's so easy for people to be manipulated because they're stuck in their mind and logic consciousness of fear, right? So what does this mean in the collective? Well, if we on an individual level can get ourselves back into a state of understanding that oneness and love is actual truth, we will be living from the heart space. And it is our job as individuals to remember this. It is our job to alchemize the pain that we experience in life that ends up callousing our heart and keeps us out of our heart center. So once we crack open and let go of those pains, then we're able to live more from the state of oneness, compassion, peace, unconditional love, which lives in this center. And the more each person is able to re-access this space on a regular basis to the point that that is just your natural state of being, we're going to start resonating. We're going to start creating more coherence with our mind, right? The heart will lead and then the brain will follow. And once more people create this coherence, then we will start putting that signal out to the rest of humanity. And when the rest of humanity starts catching up, then that is a point of evolution. Evolution to from brain consciousness to heart consciousness is not necessarily this like physical evolution that we've kind of been taught. It's more of an energetic and spiritual evolution. And there's probably some sort of physical aftermath of that as well. However, fear cannot be sustained when the collective lives from a place of truth, love, compassion, peace, and oneness. So the more we open into this space on an individual level, the more we will see this in the collective. And the constructs that are holding fear over the masses will dissolve, it will fall. And the more people really come into this, we're seeing this happen right now. So that's what I mean when I say heart consciousness. That is a state of humanity that lives from a place of love, compassion, and oneness rather than fear, um, hatred, separation, otherness. We are in our heart, we understand the truth that we are all connected, we are all source. So, I hope that explains heart consciousness a little bit to you. I will probably be talking about this more. And if you have any questions or comments about this, let me know. I would love to hear your feedback if this is interesting for you. And through time, I also will probably be offering some transmissions from the heart, and um, I can also do some offer some meditations or advice on how to connect to this space. So thank you all so much for being here at the Resonance Container, and I look forward to the next one. Be well, everybody.